The nurse practitioner set a manila folder on the exam table, and the sound of it landing made Raymond's chest go tight.
Mr. Reeves, the cognitive screening results are conclusive. You have early-stage Alzheimer's.
That can't be right. I ran 5 miles of fence line just last week.
Dad, I was worried. You've been forgetting things. The doctor said the tests don't lie.
His son's voice was smooth, but his fingers tapped a nervous rhythm on his arm.
I run a 600-acre ranch, Jeffrey. I can still do my own books.
I understand it's hard to hear, but we need to start planning. Your son can help with decisions.
Raymond's weathered hand gripped the edge of the table, knuckles bone white.
I'm here for you, Dad. Let me take some of the load. It's what family does.
Raymond looked at the folder, then at his son. The ranch he'd inherited from his father suddenly felt a world away. 3 weeks later, a fog settled over Raymond's mind, missed chores, lost tools, a dread he couldn't outrun.
It's okay, Dad. I'll handle the bills. Just sign this so I can legally step in.
His father built this ranch from nothing. The thought of handing it over made his stomach churn.
Remember what the nurse said. You need to reduce stress. Let me carry the burden for a while.
Raymond nodded slowly, his resistance crumbling under the weight of the diagnosis and his son's patient smile.
You'll keep the hands-on and the herd healthy? Nothing changes?
Nothing will change, Dad. I promise.
His fingers drummed once on the document, then stilled. Raymond took the pen. His signature, once sharp and angular, was a little shaky now. Jeffrey closed the folder before the ink was dry, a flicker of triumph buried beneath his concerned facade. Within a month, a for-sale sign appeared on the eastern fence line, hammered into frozen ground by a crew Jeffrey hired. Raymond saw it from the barn door and stumbled toward the gate, his breath steaming in the cold.
What have you done, Jeffrey? That land's been in this family for 3 generations.
Dad, we talked about this. You just don't remember. The taxes alone would have buried us.
He wanted to believe he was forgetting. It was easier than believing his son was a liar.
A week later, Dr. Christine finished a herd check and caught the ranch foreman's grim look.
Is it true Raymond's selling off land? He once told me the only way out was in a pine box.
The foreman just shook his head. His son handles everything now. The old man's not himself.
Raymond Reeves had signed every vet contract for 30 years with the same steady hand. This didn't add up.
She drove past the second parcel a day later, a fresh sign, sold. Christine tightened her grip on the wheel. Tuesday, Christine picked up the quarterly feed contract at Anderson's. The renewal required Raymond's signature as ranch owner. She slid the contract from the envelope and froze. The signature at the bottom was wrong.
That's not how Raymond signs his name. Not since the accident.
Back at her clinic, she pulled an old feed order from 3 years ago, signed by Raymond himself. Side by side, the signatures diverged. The new one was smooth. The old one slanted, a scar's legacy.
The branding iron slip ruined his grip. He'd learned to write with a deliberate slant ever since.
Whoever signed for the ranch had used a signature Raymond abandoned when the wound was still raw.
Her heart pounded. This wasn't memory loss. Someone was stealing Raymond's ranch, one forged signature at a time.
She filed the contracts, heart pounding, and forced her palms flat on the desk. She grabbed her coat. She wasn't sure what came next, but she wasn't letting this go. Christine killed the engine at the Reeves gate and walked up the frozen porch steps, her breath a sharp white plume. She knocked 3 times, sharp and quick. The door cracked open to Jeffrey's narrow face.
Dr. Christine. Dad's not taking visitors. Doctor's orders.
This can't wait, Jeffrey. There's an issue with a feed contract that needs Raymond's written consent.
I have power of attorney. I'll handle it.
Inside, Raymond set down his coffee and tilted his head. He could have sworn he heard Christine's voice.
Why would Jeffrey send her away? She's been treating our herd for 30 years.
Jeffrey eased the door closed. The deadbolt clicked, a sound colder than the air outside.
He's lying. Raymond would never shut me out without a word.
She walked back to her truck, her jaw tight. If Jeffrey wanted a fight, he'd just picked one. She spent the next afternoon pulling every vet record with Raymond's signature, annual herd checks, vaccine orders, bills of sale. She lined them up chronologically, and the break was unmistakable. The year after the branding iron slipped, his signature changed forever.
The scar tissue forced him to grip the pen differently. The slant was a permanent record of that pain.
In a dusty photo album she kept for the clinic wall, she found a shot of Raymond holding a newborn calf, his hand clearly bandaged. Then she called an old ranch hand, a man who'd been there the day the iron kicked back.
You remember the day Raymond burned his hand. He couldn't hold a fork for weeks.
The ranch hand's voice crackled back. Confirmation as steady as a heartbeat, changed how he wrote ever since, said it was his testimony. She snapped the folder shut, a weight settling in her chest. This wasn't suspicion anymore.
If Raymond's own signature condemned him, she'd need an impartial authority to see what she saw.
She picked up her phone again, this time to find the number for Adult Protective Services. The next morning, Christine walked through the frosted glass door of the County Adult Protective Services office, her evidence folder pressed against her coat.
Dr. Christine, you said this was urgent. Tell me what you found.
Christine laid the feed contract next to the old records. The signatures stared up like mismatched footprints.
Raymond Reeves injured his hand 15 years ago. His signature changed permanently. This contract uses the old style of forgery.
It's compelling. But with an Alzheimer's diagnosis, his family could argue the signature was simply one of his last clear moments.
No. Look at the slant. He couldn't write like that anymore. The scar doesn't lie.
Reed studied the documents a long moment, then nodded slowly.
I'll open a preliminary inquiry. But these things move slow, Dr. Christine. People with power of attorney have shields.
Then we better move fast. He's already sold 2 parcels. There won't be a ranch left to save.
She left the folder with Reed and walked out, the click of her boots echoing in the quiet hallway. An inquiry had begun, but against a ticking clock. Jeffrey's phone buzzed with a final notice from a casino credit line, $80,000 overdue. He met Diane at a dim diner on the outskirts of town, their usual spot for damage control.
Remember, you're the medical professional. If anyone questions the diagnosis, you confirm it.
I don't like this, Jeffrey. That vet was here asking questions.
Before he could answer, his phone lit up with the name of a lawyer he kept on retainer.
What's the problem?
The lawyer warned that an investigator from Adult Protective Services had opened a file on the ranch, asking about Raymond's diagnosis.
They're digging. You better keep your mouth shut.
Her hands trembled under the table. She was in too deep.
Jeffrey strode to his car, slammed the door, and gripped the wheel until his fingers ached. The walls were closing in. The following morning, Investigator Reed pulled up to the Reeves Ranch and knocked firmly on the front door.
Of course. I have nothing to hide.
Inside, Jeffrey produced the power of attorney and a photocopied medical report, his tone calm and rehearsed.
Yes, I administered the assessments. Mr. Reeves showed clear deficits.
Her answers were precise, but a faint tremor betrayed her composure. Reed returned to her office and laid out the signature evidence, but without a clear confession, it remained a battle of opinions.
Both stories are too clean. Someone is lying, but who?
She picked up the phone and dialed Christine.
They stayed on script, but the nurse was terrified. We need something more concrete to break this.
The inquiry was alive, but barely. Without a crack, the case would die on the vine. Christine waited until the feed truck pulled up, then slipped through the gate while the driver distracted Jeffrey with paperwork. She found Raymond in the barn, checking the alfalfa bales, his old dog curled nearby.
Raymond, look at this feed contract. That's not your signature. It's the one you used before the branding iron accident.
She pointed to the smooth, flowing script, nothing like the angled, scar-driven signature he'd used for 15 years.
That was before the iron kicked back. I couldn't grip the pen right after. How do you know that?
What the hell is going on here? I told you to stay away from him. He's not competent to make decisions.
Jeffrey grabbed Christine's arm and pulled her toward the door. Raymond stood frozen.
Jeffrey, let her go. She's been a friend to this ranch for 30 years.
The door slammed. Raymond looked down at his scarred hand, the one that once held a branding iron, and for the first time, doubt crept in. Justice moved fast when it wanted. By the next afternoon, a neurologist had been assigned, and the court order was on its way.
This is absurd. I have power of attorney. You can't just...
We can, and we are. Mr. Reeves will be evaluated regardless of your objections.
Jeffrey slammed the receiver down and immediately dialed Raymond. But Raymond was already in the neurologist's waiting room, staring at his scarred hand, ignoring the insistent buzz.
Mr. Reeves? I'm Dr. Shaw. We'll start with a few simple memory exercises.
Fine by me. Just tell me the truth when it's done.
She placed a sheet of circles and numbers on the table. The test of his life began. Jeffrey's call went to voicemail. He left a frantic message, ordering Raymond to come home. But no one listened. For the first time in months, Raymond felt a sliver of control. Whatever the results, they'd be his. Dr. Shaw asked Raymond to recall a list of 10 words after a 5-minute delay. He paused, then repeated them all, slow but exact.
And the names from 5 minutes ago?
Rose, car, whistle, candle, apple, hammer, sky, coat, bell, mile. Not bad for an old fool, is it?
She noted something in her chart but didn't smile back. The tests were designed to be impartial. In the waiting room, Jeffrey bounced his leg, checking his watch every 30 seconds.
If the old man slips up, I'm finished.
Miles away, Christine sat in her clinic, the landline pressed to her ear. Reed's voice was tired but steady.
Any word yet?
2 hours later, the door opened. Raymond walked out, shoulders straight, exhaustion lining his face but not his mind.
The full report will take a few days, Mr. Reeves, but I can tell you the tests were thorough.
The moment Raymond's truck pulled away from the neurologist's office, Jeffrey was on his phone to a developer.
The last parcel. 200 acres. Signed tonight, and it's yours at a discount.
The next morning, Christine stopped for feed and caught the store owner talking about a land deal for the old Reeves place.
Which parcel? 200 acres. That's the last good pasture. He's going to sell it out from under Raymond while the tests are pending.
She dialed Reed from the parking lot, voice low and fast.
I'll get an emergency hold, but the power of attorney is still valid. I can only stall it 72 hours.
By noon, a clerk delivered the hold order to the county recorder's office. The sale screeched to a halt for now.
72 hours. I signed the contract already.
He slammed the landline down and stared at the clock. 3 days until the hold expired, and the neurologist's report would decide everything. At dusk, Diane sat in her car behind the clinic, hands shaking so hard she could barely grip the phone.
If I don't go now, I'll go to prison for this.
30 minutes later, she pushed open the APS office door and asked for Investigator Reed, voice cracking.
You look like you've been carrying a boulder. Sit. Tell me what you need to say.
Jeffrey Reeves paid me $10,000 to falsify the Alzheimer's diagnosis. I forged the assessment forms.
She didn't stop. The gambling debts, the power of attorney, the signature Jeffrey forged on the feed contract. It all poured out.
You understand you're implicating yourself in multiple felonies?
I don't care. I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I see that old man's face when he believed the lie.
Reed slid a typed affidavit across the table. Diane read it once, then signed, pressing the pen so hard it left an imprint on the page beneath.
This is enough to arrest him, but I'm going to wait until the neurologist's report lands.
The clock was still ticking, but now the pendulum had swung. Jeffrey just didn't know it yet. The next morning, Reed and Christine pulled into the ranch while Jeffrey was in town arguing with a lawyer. The house was quiet. Raymond opened the door unshaven and wary, but he let them in when he saw Christine.
Raymond, I need you to sit down. I have to show you something.
She laid the feed contract beside an old herd check. The two signatures glared up at him.
That's my old signature. I couldn't write like that after the iron burned me. Who signed this?
Your son, Raymond, the nurse confessed. She forged the diagnosis. He forged this signature.
Raymond's hand trembled on the armrest, the scar tissue pulling tight as he clenched his fist.
He told me I was forgetting he sold my land while I sat in this chair.
He stared at the floor for a long moment, then raised his head, pale blue eyes suddenly sharp.
I want my land back, every acre, and I want my son to answer for what he did.
Jeffrey's sedan roared up the driveway 20 minutes later, spraying gravel. He barreled toward the house, already shouting.
You called the cops on me? I'm your son.
No. A son doesn't forge his father's name and sell his birthright for gambling money.
The cuffs clicked. Jeffrey's face shifted from rage to disbelief to something like terror. As the patrol car pulled away, Reed's phone buzzed. She read the text and looked at Raymond.
That's Dr. Shaw. The cognitive evaluation came back. You scored in the 97th percentile.
She handed him the report. Raymond's scarred fingers trembled as he traced the numbers.
Normal, after all those months, normal.
His voice cracked, but his shoulders lifted. The weight of the false diagnosis finally slid off. Reed watched him, then nodded toward the receding patrol car. Now we make sure he never does this to anyone else. Raymond spent the next morning in a wood-paneled law office, signing emergency motions to freeze the fraudulent sales. The lawyer filed them before noon. By evening, the county clerk had pulled the sales records and flagged them for reversal. Back at the ranch, he spread the old survey map across the kitchen table and traced his father's handwriting.
Every fence, every water line, he built this. I'm not letting it go again.
Christine arrived with coffee and a binder of old vet records, proof of his 30-year stewardship.
I'm rewriting my will. I want you to witness it.
Raymond, I didn't do it for a reward.
I know that's exactly why it should be you.
She squeezed his hand and nodded, eyes glistening. He called the lawyer to schedule the signing. The ranch would endure, and so would the people who fought for it. 3 days later, Reed called a meeting in the courthouse annex. Raymond, Christine, and Dr. Shaw took their seats.
The forged signature on the feed contract was the first crack. A scar changed how Raymond wrote, and the forger never knew.
She placed Diane's confession next to the neurologist's report, 97th percentile, normal cognition. Reed closed the file with a definitive thump. The power of attorney is void. The land sales are being reversed. Outside, a local reporter handed Christine a paper. The headline read, "Local Vet Exposes Elder Fraud."
I didn't expose anything. I just paid attention to a friend when no one else would.
Later that afternoon, in a quiet law office, Raymond slid a new document across the polished desk.
This ranch needed someone to fight for it. You did, with nothing to gain. That's why your name belongs here.
You're a stubborn old man, Raymond Reeves, but it would be an honor to keep this place standing.
He signed his name, the slanted, scar-driven signature that had saved everything. The Reeves Ranch had a future again. The next week, a judge formally charged Jeffrey with elder fraud, forgery, and exploitation. He was led from the courthouse in cuffs, his gaze fixed on the floor. Raymond stood in the hallway watching. He didn't say a word.
You don't have to watch this.
At the clinic, Diane's nursing license was revoked. A staff member removed her name from the board. He sat in his worn armchair, the border collie at his feet, and spoke quietly to the reporter from the county paper.
Trust is a fragile thing. I lost it in my own son, but I also found it in a lifelong friend.
That evening, a parade of headlights turned up the drive. Neighbors with casseroles, the feed store owner with a sack of grain, the ranch hand with a bottle.
Word travels fast in the valley. They all know what you went through.
I know it feels like the ranch is breathing again.
For the first time in months, the old house smelled of home-cooked meals and laughter. The isolation was over. The next morning, Raymond stepped out into the snow, his border collie at his heels. He walked the fence line alone, the cold air sharp in his lungs, but his mind was quiet.
The branding iron had marked him that day, but it also marked a new way to sign his name.
He remembered the pain, the smell of burnt leather, and the weeks of learning to write with a slant.
If it hadn't happened, Jeffrey would have slipped through.
That scar, which he'd cursed for 15 years, had become the one thing his son couldn't fake. He stopped at the barn, running his hand over the rough wood. This place had almost been lost.
Funny how the thing you hate most ends up saving you.
The dog pressed against his leg, and he scratched its ears, a rare smile breaking his face. The weight lifted, replaced by a quiet certainty that the ranch would outlast all of them. Christine's old truck rumbled up the drive, trailing a puff of snow. Raymond rose from the porch step to meet her.
Thought you might need a decent cup of coffee. The stuff at the feed store is tar.
You're a lifesaver, Christine.
They sat in comfortable silence, watching the snow dust the fence line. The dog settled between them.
Thank you for not letting them bury me alive.
That's what old friends are for.
Raymond nodded, the words settling deep. No apology would bring back the months, but this was enough. He reached down and scratched the collie's ears, the scar on his hand catching the light. The afternoon sun broke through the clouds, painting the pasture gold. They watched it together, no words needed. Two friends, one dog, and 600 acres that would never be taken from him again. Evening fell across the valley, the snow turning blue in the fading light. Raymond walked the ridge alone, his dog a shadow at his heels, both of them at home in the stillness. He flexed his right hand, the scar catching the last sliver of light. In the end, the thing that saved Raymond Reeves wasn't a diagnosis or a document. It was a scar that told the truth when everything else lied. That scar was his testimony, written not in ink but in pain and survival. He stood there, a man and his land, both weathered and unbroken. The Reeves Ranch sign hung steady in the cold, its letters unchanged, its promise kept. He turned toward home, the dog leading the way, their tracks filling slowly with snow. And as the dark settled over the land, Raymond Reeves was finally completely home.